Chelsea 1, Bayern Munich 3. Go on then, let's get into it. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And today, that genuinely means me actually making a video about the first loss I've made a video about since I started my YouTube channel. So before I go too far, that's already really good. Now, the last loss was Flamengo. I did have a YouTube channel at that time, but I actually was the only, basically, match review that I've missed since then. And ever since then, it's all been wins and draws. So before we get into anything, and there's quite a lot to get into about this game, about why it isn't necessarily all doom and gloom, that's just worth bearing in mind, right? It's like, okay, cool, that's one loss. It's one loss. It's just one loss. But guys, before we get into it, if you're enjoying the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so we'll start with the lineup. I normally structure these videos a little bit more, but I watched the game, I did a watch along for it, and then I jumped almost straight onto a 1 hour live stream with the Blue Lounge. So I've been talking about this game for quite a long time. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of talk about it in isolation, right, without structuring it quite so much. So, we'll take a look at the lineup. I actually was only one off on the lineup, Reece James instead of Garnacho. Now that sounds weird when I just say it like that, but I was expecting Cole Palmer's playing in the middle and Garnacho's playing on the left, but what happened is Reece James played in midfield, which pushed Enzo Fernandez into the middle, which pushed Palmer out to the right, and Neto was on the left. And yeah, so I was very, very close. Ultimately, I thought it looked like a pretty smart lineup for what was always going to be a really, 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 really tough game, man. It was always going to be a really tough game. So even though I maybe tried to go with a bit more like attacking flair, even just by putting Garnacho there, ultimately, when I saw the lineup that Maresca put out, I'm like, yeah, man, that makes sense. That makes sense. Bit more defensive solidity across the board. Enzo Fernandez not quite as advanced. He will try and arrive late in the box and crash and this and that and the other, but ultimately he won't spend as much time like right up there as like a Cole Palmer will. So, we're kind of filling out the defensive, 2/3 of the, back 2/3 of the pitch. That kind of made sense to me. So yeah, Malagusto right back, Chalobah and Tosin in defence with Cucurella at left back, a pivot of Reece James and Moises Caicedo with Enzo Fernandez in front of them, Palmer on the right, Neto on the left, João Pedro up top. So we'll talk a bit about the general to and fro of the game, and then we'll look a little bit at like player performance, not the actual like stats and the who scored and whatever, just like how from the eye test. So in the first 20 minutes, man, honestly, we look great. And that is a common theme throughout the game. We had really big spells during this game where we were totally in control and we were dominating the ball and we looked really, really, really dangerous. And in the first 20 minutes especially, we were looking like we were having the better chances. Ultimately, and maybe it's copium. Tell me if you think it's copium in the comments, but I'm trying to be objective here, right? That was really, really positive. Bayern Munich are one of, if not the best team in the world. Do you know what I mean? Next to Real Madrid, PSG, they are up there. I don't think we can necessarily take the Club World Cup performances into account so much because it was the back end of a season. Everyone was really tired. And I'll be honest about that. I think that's part of the reason we beat PSG as well. Do you know what I mean? When we played them in the Club World Cup. So it's balanced, isn't it? Because we beat PSG in the Club World Cup. So maybe we can go toe-to-toe with the Bayern Munich. A lot's changed since then, man. Bayern have brought in a couple of really good players, and we've obviously changed our team quite a lot as well. International breaks, injuries, lots of nuance, do you know what I mean, surrounding this game. But ultimately, from the eye test, we look good in large spells in this game, man. What hurt us in this game was moments that showed the difference in levels. So all three of the goals, right? All three of the goals were forced errors, essentially. So they, you can put them down to defensive errors where you can blame the defenders. And yes, there was definitely more that in some of the goals, at least, that the defenders could have done. But at the end of the day, Bayern Munich forced all of these errors. So even though they weren't able to really easily score from open play, they forced all of these errors that allowed them, the first one was an own goal from Trevor Chalobah. The second was a penalty given away by Moises Caicedo. And the third one was a bit of a freak goal, man. Honestly, I'm still not even really sure what happened. But at the end of the day, Harry Kane ended up putting it away. So They've got the best striker in the world, arguably, and one of the most storied goalkeepers of all time in between their sticks. Do you know what I mean? Manuel Neuer, nearly 40 years old, absolutely unbelievable. He was playing in the Champions League final in 2012. Do you know what I mean? And here we are, literally 14 years later, playing him in the opening game of the new Champions League format, with us returning to the Champions League. So throughout their team, they had quality, experienced youth. I said all this in my preview, man. If you watch my preview, you know that, I already know that Bayern Munich was always going to be a really, really tough task. Absolutely, that's true. And at the end of the day, I think that first goal really killed our momentum, man, because there were spots after it that things were starting to look okay again, and we were getting back into it and looking a bit good. Like Cole Palmer's goal was wicked, man. Really, really quick transition, lovely goal from Cole Palmer. Not amazingly dissimilar from not the goal itself, but how we ended up carving out goals from PSG. Quick counters, fast thinking. There was a lot of that from us as well, man. Like quick movements and stuff, and they were really struggling with our quick decision making and quick passing. And like I say, there was a lot of really positive things to take away. But at the end of the day, what lost us this game was defensive frailty. Enzo Maresca is probably going to be quite bullish in the fact that he asked for another centre-back, and you can easily see that is one of our biggest problems. 100% it is. And yeah, the levels, man. Do you know what I mean? Bayern Munich are just... They got some new players in their teams, but Luis Diaz is a Premier League winner. Michael Elise is a generational talent. Do you know what I mean? Looks amazing. Gnabry's been really good for Bayern Munich for a while. Harry Kane's arguably the best striker in the world. Kimmich has been marshalling that defence and midfield for like a decade now. Do you know what I mean? And do you know what the difference is? No, the difference not even. Sorry, it's something that's quite similar. They had lots of defensive woes as well. They were using their third choice left back, who eventually also got injured, and they replaced with someone that wasn't even a left back. I don't think. I think he's an attacking player. They're not using their first choice right back. And Jonathan Tah got a yellow card, and they changed him out for Kim Min-jae literally not long after. I think it might have been a half-time change, actually. It was a change at half-time. And so they didn't exactly have their best foot forward with their defence either, but ultimately it was their attack that won it. We could have done a bit better. At the end of the day, you would hope, like, João Pedro is a bit of a passenger, for instance. I guess I'll start working slightly into player performance now. João Pedro really, really struggled to get into this game. That's not the first time we've seen that from João Pedro. I think the honeymoon period with João Pedro is over now. I think people know to look out for him. People know how to, figure that into their tactics. It's not a big surprise anymore that João Pedro is a very versatile player that can drop deep and exchange with people. I don't think he's necessarily been figured out, but I think the grace period of, this is a surprise, has kind of gone with that now. Cole Palmer had a really good game, looked really threatening. Pedro Neto looked a bit leggy, truth be told. He looked like he was a bit tired, man. Enzo Fernandez had a couple of moments where he looked like he could make something happen, but I've talked about this on the Blue Lounge. I say starting to, I've actually had this conversation before. If you're an OG from the channel, then you'll probably remember me talking about this ages ago. Enzo Fernandez, for me, makes a lot happen. Like, he arrives late, scores a goal, gets an assist, and his numbers look good. And you kind of just look at his numbers and go, oh yeah, cool, wicked player. But he doesn't really connect team play together very well. Do you know what I mean? He goes missing in a lot of the games, and he's kind of easy for the opponent to read and figure out, and he's not super dangerous or unexpected. Do you know what I mean? So I think, for instance, look how often last year when we had Lavia in midfield alongside Moises Caicedo, we looked like a better team. I'm starting to feel like Enzo Fernandez, we'll see, man. The season will tell. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I would like to be wrong, because I do like him as a player, and I think we spent so much money on him. But I'm starting to form this opinion of Enzo Fernandez where I'm like, you're good for a goal sometimes, and you're good for an assist sometimes. He's got buckets of character, 100% he's got buckets of character. But I just think for a midfielder, he needs to do more. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't mind him not scoring and assisting as much if he was constantly playing all these lovely long balls and little passes and connecting the play together and being, I guess it's a bit heavy to try and make the comparison, but a bit like Cesc Fabregas, a touch, not exactly like that, but maybe just a little bit more like playmakery and of a thinky footballer. Moises Caicedo was good, apart from, giving away the penalty, but that was largely not his fault, because he was left to a point where he had to sprint back and try and get the ball, because the defence hadn't done its job properly. So I don't really attribute that fault that to Moises Caicedo for conceding the penalty. Yes, he made the foul, but at the end of the day, shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. We should have been more defensively resolute. the two centre-backs, man, the two centre-backs are good, and they are good centre-backs in their own right, and they are just not good enough to stop Harry Kane. Do you know what I mean? And that's not just, he's not like he put a hat-trick past us or whatever. He scored 2 goals, one of which was a penalty, and the other one he was just in acres of space for. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one was close to him. Our centre-backs were split so wide when he managed to get through that ball. But at the end of the day, Harry Kane is one of the world's deadliest marksmen, and our centre-backs were not up to the task in the grand scheme of things. So, look, the goals were quite situational, and like I say, there were errors. They were forced errors at the end of the day. It wasn't just like we were constantly getting torn apart. It was quite back and forth. Do you know what I mean? We weren't just like putting 10 men behind the ball and desperately trying not to concede. We were getting a lot of chances, man. We definitely should have got more out of the game than we did. But we didn't. So that's kind of my review of the game in general. It is disappointing, right? That's the thing that you've got to kind of, rationalise as, yes, it's disappointing, but I predicted a 2-0 loss for this game. Why did I predict a 2-0 loss? Why am I so disappointed at 3-1? Would I have been less disappointed at 2-0? There's a 2-goal deficit. We scored 1 goal more than we should have done, and it was an own goal and a penalty and 1 nice finish, but from a situation that shouldn't have been there in the first place. So there are positives to look at, and let's talk about those positives, man. I listened to in the commentary, it was a really interesting stat, and I think Mo corrected me on the stream. It was like Chelsea's players collectively have played 56 Champions League games, and Reece James is 30 of those. So in our whole team, over half of all of our Champions League games have been played by Reece James. Bayern Munich's team have played over 500 between them all. Obviously, a lot of those are going to be from Neuer, but at the end of the day, there's pedigree, is kind of what I'm saying. There's pedigree there. This will be not exactly harrowing, but it will definitely make some of the guys be like, oh wow, okay, so this is it. This is the Champions League. Another positive is the fact that we played Bayern Munich first, man, and we got this loss out of the way. I predicted it was going to be a loss. The scoreline was a little bit different from what I thought, but ultimately with a 2-goal deficit, we did lose this game. And I still think we can do well in the Champions League, man. I think, was it Liverpool, or I can't even remember who it was. Maybe it was even PSG or Real Madrid. I think it might have been Real Madrid. Someone, a really good team, was at the really lower end of the Champions League table last season, because the format's different now. As Chelsea fans especially, because this is our first time in it, we need to change our mindset. Do you know what I mean? Because it's this loss is different from losing the first game in the Champions League 3-1 to Bayern Munich, when the next game is you going back up against Bayern Munich again. And do you know what I mean? You've got to make up that 3-1 deficit, and there's away goals and all this, that, and the other. It's not like that anymore, man. Our next game is Benfica, who have just confirmed the announcement that Jose Mourinho is going to be their new manager. So that will be very interesting because it's at Stamford Bridge. But will they benefit from new manager bounce, or will Enzo Maresca show Jose Mourinho what the new school's all about? I don't know. But at the end of the day, pathos, and do you know what I mean? We've got a lot of really winnable games in this group, man, 100%. And because of the new format, we can put that game behind us now. That's the really big thing. That's a really, really big thing, is we don't have to walk away from this being like, oh man, we got to play them again at the Bridge, and it's going to be really hard if the fans don't get it. Do you know what I mean? It's it's going to be new. It's a different game. It's a lot easier to move on from this than it would be if this was the first game in the old Champions League format where we had to play them again. So for me, that's another positive. And like I say, man, I'm, justifying a lot of stuff that maybe doesn't need to be, and maybe it's a bit of coping and stuff, but I'm just trying to remember that when I was going into this, I was expecting to lose. So obviously it's disappointing to lose, but that's kind of where I expected us to be. And I don't think this derails our season. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't, even derail our Champions League campaign. It was an eye-opener to an extent. Wow, we've got a really young team that are not ready right now to go toe-to-toe with Bayern Munich. I did a collab with a great YouTuber yesterday called Luis, Football Forever and Beyond. Football Fans and Beyond. Another Chelsea YouTuber, South American guy, really, really cool guy. And we were talking about it yesterday. And I said to him, I was like, I don't think we're going to win tomorrow, but if this game was in 3 or 4 months' time, I might feel a little bit different about it, because I expect us to develop a lot. This is one of the problems of having a young team, right? Is at the beginning of the season, you've got a young team, then you bring loads more new youngsters in. All of a sudden, you've got a slightly younger team than you did before. And it's like, oh, okay, so there's lots of developing to do. Do you know what I mean? You'll see the change when we stop buying youngsters and we just buy a couple of players because we think we're ready to win the league with the right purchases. The defense thing is a bit sore now, because we 100% should have gone in for someone Why didn't we go in for Mark Gurhey, man? I just don't understand that at all. Why didn't we? I mean, we had Disassi, maybe a Badiashile or something, put him in a deal, get Mark Gurhey in, do you know what I mean? Have more robust, strong, centre-backs at the squad. It's easy to say that now because we're in this situation. But ultimately, like I say, I do think Maresca will be a little bit bullish about that. So, guys, tell me what you think in the comments, man. Tell me what you think in the comments. I genuinely believe that this was kind of expected. So for that reason, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. If we lose against Man United, then it'll be a different conversation. Do you know what I mean? I'll be having a different conversation if we lose against Man United because I expect us to beat them, if I'm honest. And I don't expect it to be easy. I think it might be a 1-0, but I expect us to beat them. Worst case scenario, we come away with a draw. Going into the Man United game, and I'll do my preview in a day or two, I'm 100% expecting that we beat Man United. So if I'm doing a review and we've lost against Man United, I'll probably be a little bit more frothing and furious about it. Do you know what I mean? But as far as the Bayern Munich game goes, they're bookended by two of the best players that the game's ever seen. They have not lost a game in their any of their competitive fixtures this year. They've won all of their competitive fixtures this year. They put 5 past Hamburg in the game before us. Harry Kane is now on 10 goals for the season. Already, we're literally in September. Harry Kane's on 10 goals. That's absolutely nuts. So, yeah, I kind of get it, man. One positive that I'll end on just before I wrap up the video. Cole Palmer scored a Champions League goal today, so he's arrived on the Champions League stage now, and he's done it against one of the best teams out there, and it was a great goal. So if we take anything away from this, it is that Cole Palmer is a Champions League level player. We know Reece James is a Champions League level player. I believe in Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. I think there's a lot of question marks over everyone else at the moment. No, I can't wrap up yet. Oh my God, there's one amazing thing that I haven't talked about. It's Robert Sanchez. Oh, mate, Robert Sanchez. My boy, Robert Sanchez, mate. It would have been 6-1 if it hadn't have been for Robert Sanchez. Man made 3 amazing saves. Put some respect on his name. We've got to give him some flowers for that, man. Robert Sanchez was absolutely astonishing today. In the latter half of the game, do you know what? During the game in general, passing was much better than usual. Calm, collected, didn't have any particularly wobbly moments. At no point did I look at Sanchez and be like, oh no, we're going to concede because of him. There were loads of corners as well. And I said on my live stream, on the watch along, I was like, I was worried about corners because we've got Sanchez. But he was amazing today, man. Sanchez was absolutely amazing. And yeah, 2 massive positives to take away from this game. Cole Palmer scored a Champions League goal against Bayern Munich at this point in the season. And Robert Sanchez is getting better. Do you know what I mean? He's 100% getting better. Hopefully he's breaking through that thing that kind of made him difficult to watch for the last couple of seasons. But with that said, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do subscribe if you haven't already, man. If this video reaches you and you like my channel, give me a click. So I'm on the road to 1,000 subs and I need your little clicky muck clickersons. Nice one, guys. I'll catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.